the Bible's story when a tree killed a man. Based on 2 Samuel 18, the story of Absalom. Introduction. The Bible is full of powerful stories, some inspiring, some terrifying, and some deeply emotional. Among them is one unique story where a tree, yes, a tree, became an instrument of divine justice. This isn't a parable or metaphor. It is a real, historical, and spiritual event from the life of King David and his rebellious son, Absalom. This story reminds us that God can use anything, natural or supernatural, to bring justice, and that human pride, no matter how beautiful or powerful, always leads to destruction. Part 1. The handsome son of the king. King David had many sons. Among them was Absalom, the third son born to Maacah, the daughter of Talmai, king of Geshur. Absalom was stunningly handsome. From head to toe, there was no flaw in him. His long, thick hair was his pride, and people across Israel admired him. But beneath that beauty was a storm. Absalom held a grudge, a deep and dangerous one. His half-brother Amnon had violated his sister Tamar. When David, their father, failed to take action, Absalom took matters into his own hands. He plotted Amnon's murder, and after executing his revenge, he fled. For 3 years, Absalom remained in exile in Geshur. Eventually, through the help of Joab, David's military commander, he was allowed to return, but David refused to see his face. Part 2. The spark of rebellion. Though back in Jerusalem, Absalom was bitter. He wanted more than just forgiveness. He wanted the throne. Absalom began a political campaign. Every morning he stood by the city gate. When people came to the king for justice, Absalom would intercept them. "Your case is good and right," he would say, "but the king has no one to hear you. If only I were appointed judge, then everyone would receive justice." In doing this, Absalom stole the hearts of the people of Israel. Slowly but surely, he built a secret army of supporters. After 4 years of scheming, Absalom traveled to Hebron under the pretense of fulfilling a vow. There, he declared himself king. Part 3. The king on the run. When King David heard of Absalom's rebellion, he was devastated. Rather than fight in the holy city of Jerusalem and cause bloodshed, David made a painful decision. "Arise, let us flee," David said to his servants. "If we delay, Absalom will overtake us, bring disaster upon us, and strike the city with the edge of the sword." David, once the mighty warrior who defeated Goliath, now fled barefoot with his head covered in sorrow. Loyal soldiers, priests, and a few citizens followed him into the wilderness, into hiding. He wept not just over his throne, but over the betrayal of his own son. Part 4. The battle in the forest. David regrouped and prepared for war. He divided his army into 3 divisions under Joab, Abishai, and Ittai the Gittite. Before the battle, David gave a direct and emotional order. "Be gentle with the young man Absalom for my sake." The battle took place in the Forest of Ephraim, and it was fierce. The terrain was rough, and the forest itself swallowed many soldiers. The forest devoured more people that day than the sword. Thousands died, but amid the chaos, something strange and divine occurred, something no soldier could have planned. Part 5. The Tree of Judgment. Absalom, riding his mule, charged through the forest. As he passed under a large oak tree, his thick hair, the very source of his pride, got caught in the branches. The mule kept going. Absalom was left hanging in midair, caught between heaven and earth. Can you imagine it? The prince, once adored for his beauty, now dangling helplessly, his hair ensnared, his pride humbled by a tree. A soldier saw him and reported it to Joab. The soldier refused to kill Absalom, respecting the king's command, but Joab had no such hesitation. Joab took 3 javelins and thrust them into Absalom's heart, while he was still alive in the tree. 10 of Joab's armor-bearers then surrounded Absalom and struck him down. The tree did not move. It remained still, but it had played its part. The tree had held justice in place. Part 6. The father's grief. A messenger ran to David with news of victory. David asked only one question: "Is the young man Absalom safe?" When the news came that Absalom was dead, David didn't rejoice. He didn't celebrate victory. He wept, "Oh, my son Absalom! My son Absalom! If only I had died instead of you! Oh, Absalom, my son, my son!" David's cry echoed across the land. It was a king's cry, but more deeply a father's cry. The heartbreak was raw, real, and unforgettable. Part 7. The Symbolism of the Tree. This is not just a tragic tale of war and betrayal. It is a divine warning. The tree in this story wasn't just a tree. It was a symbol of God's justice. Throughout the Bible, trees symbolize life, fruitfulness, and blessing. But in this rare moment, the tree became an instrument of judgment. Just as Absalom's beauty became his downfall, the tree caught his pride and exposed his rebellion. Part 8. Lessons for today. This story is deeply relevant to our lives today. Here are some timeless lessons. 1. Pride leads to destruction. Absalom was admired for his beauty, charisma, and leadership, but his pride, ambition, and revengeful heart destroyed him. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. Proverbs 16:18. 2. God uses the unexpected. Who would imagine that a tree would stop a rebel prince? But God often uses ordinary things for extraordinary purposes. He used a staff in Moses' hand. He used 5 stones in David's sling. And here, he used a tree to bring down a prince. 3. Parental discipline is vital. David's failure to correct Absalom early in life allowed rebellion to grow. Loving your children means not just forgiving them, but also guiding and correcting them. Those whom I love, I rebuke and discipline. Revelation 3:19. 4. Sin has consequences. Absalom killed his brother, betrayed his father, and tried to steal the throne. Even though he was a prince, he could not escape justice. Part 9. The Tree and the Cross. Interestingly, there's another tree in the Bible, the cross of Jesus Christ. Just as Absalom was hung between heaven and earth, Jesus too was lifted up, but not for his own sin. He took our sins, our rebellions, our pride, and bore the punishment we deserved. Where the tree brought death for Absalom, the cross brought life for us. Cursed is everyone who hangs on a tree. Galatians 3:13. Jesus became a curse for us, so that we could be saved from the judgment we deserve. Conclusion: the tree that spoke without speaking. The tree in Absalom's story never said a word. It didn't move, attack, or shine. It just stood there firm, waiting, until Absalom's hair caught in its branches. But in that silent moment, it became the voice of divine justice. And today it still speaks. No man is above God's law. Pride will always be punished. God's justice may be slow, but it is sure.